What's up, everybody? And when I say what's up, I'm really talking to all you new Funko Pop collectors, because this video is really for you people that have been hunting for a while. I'm gonna go ahead and point out to you that this video is probably not gonna help you much. This is really some basic information for people that are just getting their feet wet with collecting. So do know that up front. If you've already been collecting for a while, this video probably will not help you out. But if you know people that need some advice, you might want to share this with them. Okay, and for those of you that are new and that are going to stick with this video to the end, I do want to let you know that I am not the end-all be-all of pop collecting. I don't know every single thing that there is. I'm going to give you as much information as I can based off my own personal experiences, but do keep researching, do keep learning from others as well. Check out other videos, see what other people are saying, and also, check out websites, people, check out Facebook, what people are talking about. Yeah, just look around and really learn, and then the more you learn, of course, the more that's going to help you with your collection. Okay, so getting to the information here, I'm going to start off by focusing on purchasing in-store versus purchasing online. I know that some people really debate about this. I would say it really comes down to personal preference, and it's not as if you have to do one or the other. I mean, you can mix it up, but for right now, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to focus on these one at a time and focusing on the positive and negatives of each. So starting off here with the positives of in-store purchases, the big positive, of course, is that you get to see your figure up close, your potential figure up close. You get to check the box quality, make sure that the box is good all the way around, no tears, no crumpling, anything like that. You get to check the paint jobs, make sure that there's not any bleeding, like sometimes paint drips down from the hairline and it gets onto the face and things like that. You want to check for flaws like that. I know I made that mistake early on. In fact, my very first Harley Quinn that I ever bought had a paint flaw, and it absolutely bugged me once I realized it because I already had it at home. So yeah, definitely check for that. Take advantage of that when you're in stores. You also have opportunities to find the unexpected. What I mean by that is you may have certain figures in mind that you're looking for, but when you're out there in the stores, you might come across some things you did not know about, or you just didn't realize were already available. And of course, you might even come across, chase figures, which would be awesome as well. And I'm definitely going to address chase figures some more later on. And some stores, they do have deals regularly. I know GameStop has been running a promotion for a while where you buy 3 pop figures and then you get the 4th one free. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a standing, all-time deal, but I know that they've had it going on for a while. So really, when it comes to stores, the more that you buy, the more that you save. Basically, that's the way they tend to run their deals, of course, because they're trying to make money. But if you're new to collecting, you're probably buying multiple figures at one time anyway, so it does make sense. Now, also, when you go to stores, employees can be helpful. They can, help you learn more about what's coming out, what's going to be available. I know GameStop sometimes will actually print up a list for you of figures that are on the way, which is definitely helpful. So yeah, I think employees can help you out in some ways. And then of course there is the thrill of the hunt. You hear people that collect pops, that have been doing it for a while. They talk about going out in the wild and pop hunting. They use that terminology, and it really is thrilling, especially when you find something that is rare. You find a chase figure, especially. That's a good feeling, and some of you may have seen that in other YouTube videos. So definitely awesome. Now, as far as negatives are concerned, of course, you're burning up gas when you go out pop hunting. Even if you're close to home, still, if you go out enough times, you're really, that starts to add up over time. So you do have to consider that. Also, new pops, they do tend to cost more in the store. So again, using GameStop as an example, you might buy 3, get 1 free, but you got to realize individually those pops you're buying, they probably cost more than they would online. Maybe even a couple dollars more. So you do have to consider that. Also, pop hunting, it can be time consuming, so that's another factor. You got to think about time with friends, family. Do you have other responsibilities, like beyond work? Are you going to school, things like that? So you got to factor in that time as well that you're spending pop hunting. And then also, even though employees, they can be helpful, they also can be a hindrance. Let's be real about it. It can be frustrating to go out and deal with employees that they have no idea what you're talking about. You say Funko Pop and it's just like, huh? Like they don't know what you're talking about. Or on the flip side, they may know exactly what you're talking about, and that's why you never find exclusives or chase figures in their store, because they're taking care of themselves first. So really, it can go either way with employees, and you got to look at both sides of that. So some general information here when it comes to in-store purchasing. Again, make sure you check every box for quality and paint jobs, and also make sure you look for those chase figures. And I know some people may look down a row of figures, and when I say a row, I'm talking about you have a figure up front. Okay, let's say that is Star-Lord. You're in Toys R Us, you see Star-Lord up front, and you assume that every figure right behind him is that same Star-Lord. May not be true. You might move it to the side, you might see their exclusive Star-Lord. You might keep on moving it to the side, moving more boxes to the side, and then boom, you find a chase figure. So definitely take the time to look through those boxes. Never know what you might find. Also, get in the habit of asking if there's anything else in the back. Make sure you ask employees that, because I know more than once I've been at Hot Topic, I asked that question and they actually brought out something that I needed, something I was looking for. So make sure you get in that habit as well. I'll say also attempt to build some genuine relationships with employees, because genuine is important there. Don't just try to get over on people. Don't be nice just because you want something in return, but build some genuine relationships, and people will look out for you. Because you got to remember, even though I know some people have some frustrations with store employees, sometimes we have some bad experiences, but we got to remember they're part of the community too when it comes down to it, especially since so many of them are collectors. So again, you build some genuine relationships. You never know when they might try to look out for you. They might give you a heads up on what's going to be available. They might hold something to the side for you, whatever it may be. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And I would say also go beyond major retailers. If you've been hunting for a little while, even if it's just a couple of weeks, and you have not checked your local comic book shops, you might be missing out. Because a lot of comic book shops now, honestly, the comic book business is not the greatest business. I mean, it's not the most profitable business. So that's why a lot of comic book shops do sell collectibles as well, including Funko Pops. And you can actually find some Funko Pops in comic book shops that you won't find in other places. And I'm going to address that some more later on too. So yeah, definitely when you, I say also when you're away from home, if you have the time, check and see where the comic book shops are, and go check them out if you have the time, see what they have available. And finally here, and this isn't a store per se, but when you go to conventions like Comic-Cons, don't expect the greatest deals. Definitely make sure that you compare prices as well, because you might see a figure that you really have wanted for a long time and it's right there in front of you, and you see that big price tag and you're like, well, maybe it's worth it. I would still get your phone out, look it up and see. You could check eBay, or you could check a website that I'm going to talk about here in a moment, and just check that price and see how much they have marked it up, because it might change your mind. I feel like there's a few good deals at conventions sometimes, but overall not always that great. So moving on to online purchases, again, positives and negatives. First of all, it is very convenient. I mean, you can, if you got your phone on you can do that whenever. You got a smartphone, of course, you can online shop whenever, so it's very convenient. You do find great deals sometimes, including bundle deals, which major retailers don't do. So as far as I know, major retailers don't do that. So I'm actually going to leave some links again down in the description for some websites that do offer bundle deals. And what I mean by that, for example, the new Justice League Pops are on the way, and there are some websites that are offering a deal to buy all of them at one time, and you actually save money overall, and as opposed to buying them individually. So yeah, those bundle deals can be helpful for people that want to go ahead and get a full set at one time. Also, of course, and like I just mentioned with the Justice League, of course, you could do a pre-order. So websites do allow you to do those pre-orders, and stores do it as well, but you don't have to actually go to the store. You can go to their online site and handle it that way, so it is, again, very convenient in that way. And then, of course, the websites too, some websites offer a chance at chase figures, like Entertainment Earth does that, and they do that with a lot of their figures. I would say Hot Topic does it sometimes with certain figures. You get a chance at a chase figure, so that means that it's not guaranteed, but you never know. One day you might open up that shipping box and then boom, a chase is sitting there. So it does happen for some people. Now, I also will say, I didn't have a bullet here for it, but there are some websites, including some of the ones that are linked down below, where when a new chase comes out, you can just go ahead and buy it directly. Now, of course, they're going to mark up the price, so instead of selling it to you for $15 or whatever it may be, they might actually sell it for like $35 on up. Who knows? So you got to kind of weigh that for yourself. Is it worth it to do that, as opposed to hunting, going to stores repeatedly, you know, burning up that gas. You know, if you think it's within reason, it might be best just to go ahead and get the chase, and then, because chase figures do tend to hold their value and sometimes go up in value. So that's something you really got to think about and make that decision for yourself. I would say definitely base those types of decisions off of the character and the popularity, because that's definitely going to affect the value. Now, as far as negatives for online purchases, of course, the big one is the risk of shipping damage. And I've seen some horror stories, and I've experienced some horror stories myself. Luckily, not too many, but it does happen. Also, even if you get the box in good condition, like the pop box itself in good condition, you still might end up with pops that have poor paint jobs because you didn't get to really check them out. So something else to consider. And when it comes to these poor paint jobs and damaged boxes, most websites, they're just going to shrug their shoulder when you tell them that there was a problem with it. So that's just being real. I'm not saying that happens all the time. As a matter of fact, I actually had some figures replaced one time, which was very nice of the company, but that doesn't always happen. And then also, there are times when people do pre-orders and they're all excited and they're like, oh, my pop is going to be shipping out very soon, and then they get an email saying order canceled, you're getting a refund. And of course, you know, you get your money back, but at the same time, you're missing out on that figure that you really wanted. And that does happen sometimes, you know, so that's just being real. So also, and I'm not going to call out too many specific companies. I'm really trying not to be like super negative in this video, because I mean, there's so much positive about collecting, and I want you to feel positive about collecting. But if you're going to deal with companies that offer subscriptions, that where they give you certain pops a month, or, you know, certain number of pops a month, I'll just say be very careful about that, because once you put out your account information, there are some companies that have terrible customer service, and they will keep on charging you even when you try to cancel a subscription. I've seen it happen to people. Even recently, I've seen it happen to multiple people. So just be very careful about that. And me personally, I don't like the idea of a subscription for pops. And I know some people don't have much choice because they live far out of the way of stores. I know some people in Canada that they go that route because, again, they just don't have the stores near them. So, but I would say if you can avoid that, then avoid that. And then also online, of course, you do have to worry about Facebook and eBay scammers if you are making purchases there. I think it's more of a problem on Facebook, probably because eBay does really crack down on that a lot more than I think, you know, they would crack down on it in a Facebook group. There's not really so much they can do there. So some general advice when it comes to online purchases, I would say watch some unboxing videos to see how retailers ship. Okay, and that's something that Collecting Plastic, you know, a friend of mine, fellow YouTuber, Collecting Plastic is good about doing that. When he gets boxes in, he will let you see how these companies are actually sending them out. You know, how much protection do they put inside of the box? You know, what condition did the boxes finally arrive in? So that's something you definitely want to check out. So if you're considering buying from a certain store and you're ordering online, just make sure that you watch some videos first and see how their boxes tend to arrive. Watch several videos. Also, with any shopping, of course, you want to compare prices. Don't just immediately go to one particular website. Do shop around some. You might want to sign up for newsletters and notifications when you can. And I know that can be aggravating at times, but with certain websites, it can be helpful. I know with the Funko shop, I signed up. In the Funko shop, by the way, they do exclusives. That's online exclusives from Funko, directly from the company. So yeah, Funko shop, check them out and sign up for their newsletter, and you know, that's good information there. And there are other sites as well, and you know, any store that you're interested in, yeah, just sign up for the newsletters. And like I said, it's going to be more emails, but it could also be information that's going to help you out. Now, when dealing with eBay or Facebook, make sure that you check the reputation of the seller, and this is a lot easier to do on eBay. And if they don't have much of a reputation, if you can't find any information about them, then I would say use your best judgment. I mean, you got to use your best judgment, and definitely take a good look at the pictures, because they should have multiple pics of the pop from various angles that they're trying to sell. If they're showing you basically pictures like marketing pictures or promotional pictures, I don't trust that, especially if the pop is already out and available. If they're showing you pictures and you can see the store in the background, again, don't, you know, be sensible. Don't trust that. Make sure that this person is showing you pictures where you can tell that they have this in hand at home, that they actually own it. And especially if you're on Facebook and you communicate with somebody, they should be willing. If you ask for a particular picture from a certain angle of the pop figure, they shouldn't have any problem doing that if they're really trying to make a sale. You know, and I've done that before, and you know, it's been no problem. But if somebody were to ever say, I can't do that, I don't have the time, whatever, I wouldn't trust it. I really would not trust that. Also, pay attention to where the pop is shipping from, and this really is particularly with eBay, because there are fake pops out there. And as a matter of fact, you all might want to take a look at the bottom of your pops, look at the feet sometime, because the feet of Funko Pops, they are stamped in particular ways. So get familiar with that, and if that is missing from pop figures, something's not right. Also pay attention to details on the boxes, like the way that the numbers have circles around them, and you know, just little detailing on the box. Like also on the bottom there is a number that ends with the year that that pop came out. So pay attention to those details to make sure that you're not dealing with any fakes. And I'm not going to call out, the same way I'm not going to call out specific companies with negativity, I'm not going to call out specific countries. I will just say that there are some countries that do tend to put out forgery, so be very careful about that and definitely trust your instincts. Now moving along here, inbox versus out of box. Again, personal preference, but I'll just say regardless, make sure that you maintain the boxes. A lot of people, when they take their pops out of boxes, they display the pop right in front of it, which is smart because it's very organized. That way, if you're going to put the pop back in the box, boom, the box is right there. And you know, also there are some people that they don't like the boxes out, they just like the pops out. So what they will do is they'll take the plastic and they find a place to put that away, and then what they'll do is they'll take the box and they very carefully fold it down and they put those all together somewhere. You know, just regardless, maintain the boxes, because that does affect value. And even if you're just collecting for fun, again, you're going to care about the value in the long run. And also, you know, same as with anything else, make sure that you dust off your figures and your boxes every once in a while. Now, the website, I think I said I was going to mention this website here, Pop Price Guide. Definitely want you to get familiar with this website. Some people have mixed feelings about it, but to me, it is so helpful. Okay, because basically what you can do is keep track of your collection. So you set up an account, and then you put in the names of your pops one by one, you do the searches, and you add them to your collection. And as you build that list, you get to see what your top 10 most valuable pops are as well, which is something else that's very cool. And also you can look up pops that you are interested in and add them to a separate list, a want list. And with each of these lists, you can actually copy it's basically a I guess a URL that they give you, or a link that they give you, and you can share that with friends. You can also, if you have a YouTube page or a YouTube channel, you can also share that on your YouTube channel as well, so that people can see what you already have and what you're looking for. That way, if you're doing some trading, or you know, people just want to give you gifts, whatever it may be, then they know exactly what you already have and what you need or what you're looking for, you know. So again, Pop Price Guide I think is very helpful, and I tend to look at Pop Price Guide when I'm out on a hunt, when I'm out on a pop hunt, and I'm looking to see if a pop is at a fair price or not. Then I check the value. If I'm wondering if a pop is vaulted or not, if it's going up in value, again, I check Pop Price Guide. It's just very helpful to me. Moving along here, and I'm going to be very quick with this, classifications and terminology, because a lot of these terms you probably already know, even if you are new to collecting. So again, I'm going to move very quickly with this, but if you feel like you're falling behind, you can just pause and read the information on the screen as well. But starting off here with commons, commons basically just means it's not store exclusive. You can find it pretty much anywhere. More than likely, it's not going to have much value to it, at least not anytime soon, you know, unless it gets vaulted and it was popular. So yeah, commons, they're called commons for a reason. Now when I say vaulted, okay, it's basically a word for retired. That means it's no longer being produced. Now some vaulted pops, they do go up in value, but you do have to realize some pops are no longer being produced just because they weren't very successful. So if it wasn't selling well to begin with, then yeah, once it's vaulted, it's no longer being produced. Don't expect it to jump up in value. So those of you that got those Tomorrowland pops and you're really hoping that they catch on, yeah, don't hold your breath on that, okay? So just think about the popularity of the characters, and also again, look up the value online. Use Pop Price Guide. That's the easy way to see and get an idea of what the value is. And you definitely want to do that, because I want to say this real quick. The last time I was in Toys R Us, I saw a guy just snatching up a bunch of Disney pops, and I overheard him say to his wife that he's like, Disney Pops are vaulted, so he's like just grabbing them up, and I'm just looking at him like, not all Disney Pops are vaulted, and some of them have been reproduced, which brings down the value. So the Pops that he was grabbing up, I had already checked them out before because I was curious about them, and when I was in that Toys R Us before, they weren't worth any more than what he was paying for them. So again, be careful about that. If you're really looking for something with some value, look it up. Don't guess. Okay, next, chase, and this is a big word when it comes to Funko Pop hunting. Chases are extremely rare variants of Pops. They are usually not store specific. I had somebody ask me about this before, where can I find chase figures? They're very rarely tied to a specific store. Now, one exception that happened recently was the Maleficent, the new Maleficent Pop, which was a Hot Topic exclusive. So they had the Hot Topic exclusive, and then they also had a chase variant of it that's the one that had the flames that were glow in the dark, but that's rare. Most chase figures are just out in the wild in various stores, so you have to really look around. And they're called chase for a reason, because you do have to kind of chase them down to find them. Now, there is no magical way to find chase figures, even though it seems like some people got the magic touch, like Totally the Towel Man has been killing it with chase figures. I'm assuming though that part of that is because I don't think he has maybe like a huge Funko collecting community, around him. So that helps a lot. And that's why I would say, as far as advice, wander off the beaten path sometimes. Don't always go where a bunch of other collectors are. Check out some other stores, different areas, and then also try to check stores on a regular basis when you know that Pops have arrived. So you might have to actually ask employees, when do you get Pops in? When do they hit the shelves? And I don't think they would have a problem telling you that, because they're trying to get business. Now, if they act funny style about it, that might be one of those employees I mentioned earlier, somebody trying to keep stuff for themselves. But, ask different employees if you have to, and find out when they get new stuff in, and just check on a regular basis. Look through those new Pops and see if you luck up and find a chase figure. But it pretty much is about luck. There's no magical way, like I said, to find them consistently. So next here, focusing on exclusives, and I'm definitely going to run through this quickly because I think you are, regardless how long you've been collecting, you're probably familiar with this for the most part. So of course, an exclusive, that means that a certain store or website, or it could be a convention, has the rights to that Pop. I mean, that's where the Pop is going to be available. And then there are PX Previews exclusives and specialty series figures. These tend to be found at comic book shops, but they can be on certain websites as well. Like I think Toy Wars tends to get both of these, both PX Previews exclusives and specialty series Pop figures. And then PX Previews exclusives, Funko is kind of starting to expand on these to where they're not just in comic book shops. I know already it's pretty easy to find PX Previews exclusive figures at FYE. So again, but with specialty series, those are the main ones now that you will have to go to comic book shops or other collectible stores to find those. And if you don't see them on the shelves, like I said before, if you have especially a good relationship at the comic book store, even if it's your first time in, because they want to see you back, they want your business, ask them about the specialty series figure, ask them if they intend to order them, or if they could order them for you. So again, that's why it's important to support those comic book shops and build relationships with them, because it can be so helpful to you, and usually very kind people. And then shared exclusive, I think some people were kind of confused about this before. When we say shared exclusive, okay, there are certain conventions like the San Diego Comic-Con, which is really the big one in America. They get certain Funko Pop figures in limited numbers there, and then also they will share those with stores. So it's not going to be the same sticker on the box, it'll be the same figure, like you see Newt's Commander there. So that was an San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, SDCC exclusive last year. So people that went to the convention were able to buy that with that SDCC sticker on it, whereas other people, they went to Barnes and Noble, that's where they shared it with, and they could get the figure there. So yes, the sticker, by the way, if you're wondering, it does actually affect the value of it. So when we say shared exclusives though, that's what we mean. It's just shared from another event, like shared from a convention basically. Okay, now when we say grail, this is another term you may hear sometimes, and this is my own personal definition of grail. Some people will say it differently, but again, this is my definition of it. I think a grail is something that is very difficult to find, or very expensive, or it could be both. A grail is not something that is just marked up in value. You know, it's something that you really covet, something that you really want, and it has like personal meaning to you. And I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's something that you really have to chase after because it's not easy to get your hands on. So I think most collectors tend to have maybe 1 or 2 grails in mind. I was lucky enough to actually get my 2 grails that I had in mind early on when I started collecting. Notorious B.I.G., which I got thanks to the help of Anthony Nelson, a fellow collector and YouTuber, and also Crystal Heisenberg, which of course I did have to pay a little more for to get that figure through an online seller. So yeah, I think a grail, when you hear that term, it's not like a particular type of figure. It's just what's important to somebody and something that's not so easy to track down. But of course, it is possible to put in the work and to track down your grail, but more than likely you're going to pay a pretty penny for it. So moving on here, make sure that you protect your investment. I want to stress this to everybody. Even if you're just collecting for fun, do realize because pops can have value to them, you might need that value someday. I've known some people that got into tough situations, especially with medical issues, that ended up selling some pops in order to help cover some of that cost. So I really want you to look at it in that way. Think long term with your pop figures. You want them to have some value in the long run. And you know, that's why I think with some pop collectors, when we see people just tear the boxes apart, we're like, oh my God, you know, and it may seem dramatic, but it's because we're thinking long term about the value. I think you should care about it. So of course, one way to protect your figures is with pop protectors, which is basically, you know, these plastic containers that you put your pops in. And you can buy these in some stores. GameStop sells some, but then also you can go on Amazon and maybe find them even cheaper there. As far as if you have a grail, if you find a grail that you really wanted, or you find chase figures, I would say put those in the heavy duty protectors, the pop stacks, which you can also find. I know they sell them at GameStop and FYE, some other stores as well. And those, of course, are, again, the heavy duty ones. And you really do want to protect those boxes, because even if you try to take perfect care of your boxes, they're just gonna wear over time. That's the way it is with all types of containers, you know, for figures and toys, whatever it may be. You know, it's just gonna happen over time. So do try to protect them, protect that investment. I would say also here, get involved in the community. You know, speak to other collectors. If you don't know any personally, you know, meet people through social media, including YouTube. Get to know people in the community, because collectors, we really do help each other out. And it is about helping each other out, though, not just you trying to get what you want. You know, do make sure that you are giving, and you know, and then you receive, and sometimes it may just be not even actual figures, but it could just be information even, which is helpful. So yeah, get involved in the community, and that will help you a lot with collecting. Of course, for me, community is very important. That's why I'm making this video right now. That's why I do my weekly Funko news. So and it does help a lot, and my collection would not be half as cool as it is if it wasn't for the help of community members. Okay, and I would also say again, develop a rapport with store employees as well. Remember, they are part of the community. Don't forget that. And you're gonna run across some employees that rub you the wrong way. That's the way it is, but don't assume that they're all the same. Last bit of advice here, and this may sound silly to some people, but this is real here. Do make sure that you pace yourself, because when people joke about pop addiction, no, it's a real thing. And you look at some people's collections, like you see this picture here as an example, you can't look at that and tell me that there's not some form of addiction going on there. Okay, so I would say definitely don't lose sight of your responsibilities. You know, bills are always going to come first. Also consider space, and especially if you're living with other people, be considerate of their space as well. So that's something definitely to take into consideration. And also accept the fact that you can't have it all. Some people get very aggravated when they miss out on a figure, but to me, that just comes along with collecting. And then I feel like part of collecting is there's always got to be more. You know, that you're like, I think all pop collectors, we're insatiable. We're always going to be after something else. You could get a grail one day, and then the next day you're like, where's that comment I've been looking for? You know, you're out there hunting again. That's the way it is, but that should be part of the fun. It shouldn't be something that stresses you. So yeah, just embrace the fact that you can't have it all. There's always going to be more that you want, you know, and that's not really a bad thing. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. I hope that this video was helpful. I know it's a very long video, sorry about that, but I really had a lot of information to share. But I hope that this helps you out if you're a new collector. Let me know how things are going with you. Definitely share it down in the comments. I want to know your progress, and if this video helped you, you know, make sure you share it with friends as well if you think they need this help. But that's going to be it for now. Look forward to more videos on my channel, including Funko news, and I'll talk to you all again real soon.